Hello, welcome to TestFlix 2023. My name is Sandeep Garg, and today I'm going to present an atomic talk on the topic data migration testing. Thank you to the test type team for giving me an opportunity to talk on this topic, and I'm thankful to you as well that you are here investing in your learning and giving your precious time to me. Thank you so much. So let's begin. In the data migration testing context, I would be focusing on the phrase begin with the end in mind. And this phrase is taken from the famous book by the famous author Stephen Covey. And the book name is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And those 3 habits are number one, be proactive. The second one is begin with the end in mind. And third one is put first things first. And these are so relatable to us as a testing professional as and as well as to our day-to-day testing activities as far as planning, strategizing, and mitigation is concerned. What is today's agenda? What are our learning objectives? Today's learning objective are what is migration testing, why we do that, who matters, and what matters to them in the context of data migration and data migration testing. Begin with end in mind. What exactly it means, how it is being used practically when it comes to data migration testing, what and how of scripts. And that would be the last part of the overall talk. All right. My experience on data migration comes from data testing, database testing, then data migration testing with relational database management systems like SQL Server and Oracle, and to some extent, some experience on Redis Cache. I did test management, test planning, test strategy, as well as hands-on testing. And that is why I think I have some confidence in presenting this topic to you. So what is data migration? I refer to a credible resource, which is Microsoft site, and they define data migration testing as transfer of digital information to different location, different databases, different environment, different data center applications, and different storage systems. And in general speaking, what it means is that you are transferring data from one location, one storage, one database to another one. So it's a data transfer. And so many things happen, especially with the risk side of it when data is migrated from one place to another place. Why data migration? Why is it important and why it happens? The data migration happens for so many reasons. And one of the prominent reasons that I'm going to cover in this talk is end of life. Okay. Now, end of life of what? Let me give an example. So by 10th October 2023, Microsoft will end support for Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2. So if you are in a data services business, data testing, data migration testing, ETL testing, marketing, which is fueled on the data, it is the right time to take care of this kind of end of support by Microsoft. Because if certain web servers or certain database servers are running on this ecosystem, and if we are not taking precautionary measurements around it and corrective measurements around it, our customers might be in trouble. And hence, Microsoft recommend that we move our customers' database servers from this server to recommended servers. You can have some more information here. Okay, now when it comes to data migration, let's think about who matters and what matters to them. Who matters? Customer, who is paying us money for managing their data. The second one is the users of the customer's business or customer services. So both are tightly and cohesively integrated with us. And it is our job to take care of their interests. The customer and their users use certain applications. It could be anything. It could be marketing, it could be sports, it could be retail, it could be insurance, it could be e-commerce, anything. And there is a whole lot of systems at the customer end that we manage to a certain extent, or you manage as a data service provider. And these systems has a lot of data in it. It is our job to migrate that data so that once the data is migrated successfully, it can be used by those applications smoothly and without any interruption. Now, what are the most common risks that happen or that can take place with any degree of probability when the data is being migrated? Here are some examples. And the number one is data loss. No matter what precautionary measure you take while migrating the data, whatever new technology and new tools are available in the market that is facilitating that data migration, there is a possibility that data may be lost. That's a risk. We have to assume the risk. Otherwise, there is no point of testing on the data migration, right? So, data loss, data corruption, and then we have the delta loss, which is the incremental data. Duplicity is one of the reasons that customers are concerned about data migration problems. Then the database differences, schema management, when the database gets changed from relational to NoSQL or NoSQL to relational or hybrid. System integrations, which is a classical case of this discontinuing support from Microsoft to 2012 servers. Because now, when the web servers and the database servers will be moved from this server to the new recommended server, we need to check the overall integration, not only the data migration, right? Now, the second and the last, sorry, the last one is the data dependencies. And if you look at the cartoons coming on your screen, it's talking about as a data service or data migration service or testing service provider, you also are worried that some cases the data you are migrating may be lost. Maybe. At the same time, on the other hand, the customer is also worried because they're also concerned about, hey, what if this data migration service provider or data migration testing providers, they lose not only the migrated data, but also the original data, where we will go. So there are legitimate concerns, and as testing service provider, as data migration testers, we need to keep our eyes and ears open. And this is where the next topic. When testing begins, please begin with the end in mind. And what practically this means is, if you look at the right-hand side of it, look outside in for future state of data, systems and applications running smoothly. So what I'm saying is that you are looking outside in a way that, hey, the data went reached perfectly to the migrated database or server or locations or data centers, right? So future state of data has to be defined by the customer and you mutually, what it looks like, what the quality looks like. Then the application and systems running on the top of that data must run smoothly, right? Then what are the switchover date and time? It is important because, for example, in this case of discontinuing support, 10th of October is the last date. We have to be very proactive and communicative in this case. And then coming to the customer service. So a well-informed internal, external customer visibility into the testing process, and an automated checking process. So not only you are proactively thinking of the future state of the data, the applications running smoothly so that customer is happy, what you can do about it. You are talking about switchover dates, timestamps and everything so that you plan proactively when to start your testing cycles. then you are talking about what if something really goes wrong and you have to roll back. You're planning that as well. And then you are also focusing on being customer centric, right? To get all these things done, you have to start building a solid understanding of a number of things which are in front of your screen. 7 points there, 7 points here. Order depends upon your context, but I request you to please pay attention to all these points. What does not fit or suit your context, you can remove that. You can add as well on the list of these, right? And then from there, you can start. And this is where I'm saying begin with end in mind. Now, as testing or your testing process goes on, as your discussion goes on with the customer, there are certain questions that need to be asked. The questions are there databases which are obsolete or redundant? If the active databases are there, how much are prioritized? How much can be deprioritized? What are those transactions based on the 2080 principle? So you may ask, who are those 20% users of the applications which drives 80% of the transactions, which exercise 80% of the data which is under migration scope? Also look for current state of the data. It is very critical. What are the existing anomalies? How they are distributed across the database? What are the fixes and alternatives being made for them so far? And some other information we can take care of. And then in the continuation, be proactive to ask if in case of database changes, what are the schemas and data dictionaries? What are the don'ts? Equally important. What production data you cannot change, what production data you cannot use, what are the test accounts, what test accounts you cannot use, what are those jobs and packages and functions and procedures that you should not run so that they don't send false alarms or they don't send notifications to real world customers. So there are don'ts as well as far as do's as well. What is needed is proactiveness and begin with the end in mind, right? And these two collectively helps you to put first things first to take care, which is the test planning, strategy, and the design. And after that comes the scripting part, which is here on your screen right now. These are very essential checks. I hope that most of us, as far as data migration testing is concerned, are aware about these tests. I also assume that most of us are running that on a day-to-day basis. And these are important. They do not lose their relevance just in the context of this talk. So if you look at, you are focusing on, let's say, counts, right? This is one of the essential check. Counts for the tables, then do aggregates to find the corrupted data, check with the help of hash bytes, to facilitate the identification of delta or incremental records, look at the create and modification timestamp in the table. What are the master and transactional tables? What are different database objects before migration, after migration, so that you can compare safely. CDC change data tracking so that you know what tables are there which has this flag enabled so that whenever a change comes, it is being recorded. And the last part comes where I'm focusing on the scripting part. See, SQL, that the language that data migration testers use to test the migration or compare the data and objects and the rest of the things. They use SQL, and SQL is a declarative language. If it's a declarative language and so many inbuilt functions are available, simple select queries, logical executions, there are inbuilt functions, there are uh, ways to grouping the data and all that stuff. With all these things, why cannot we prepare a list of checks in the sense of SQL queries, which is like reusable, distributable, can be parameterized, can be used as a batch, can be run by any person. No need to be technical or that much technical as far as SQL is concerned. These are all checks, SQL queries, right? You write it once, port it to different databases, change the databases, do some parameterization, maybe write a stored procedure, maybe hook this into a SQL Server integration service, SSI services packages, right? And use them. This way, what you're doing is you are reducing dependency on you as a tester. You spend your time on the activities that matter a lot: scoping, risk mitigation, scheduling, understanding what customer wants, in what many ways you can satisfy the customer needs, right? With that, thank you all for listening to me, giving your precious time to me. If you want to connect with me, here are some links for my LinkedIn, GitHub, the Test Tribe Mentor, and my blog. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.